Hi, Roastbrief community. Today we have a special guest. We are with Franklin Williams. He is Executive Director of Experience Design at Area23, and now he is Pharma Jury President in Can Lions 2025. Franklin, how do you feel today? And congratulations with this incredible news. How do you feel today?
Thank you. I feel honored, number one. I feel humbled, and I feel excited, honestly, about all the things that are right in front of us. There are a lot of folks that are, going to be descending on CAN in the next, week or week and a half, and we're all going to be looking at all of the work and all of the time that people put into things that they think should get top honors. And so I'm excited about that process, and I'm excited about the idea of bringing that to life in a way that I think really respects the work.
Perfect. And well, as you represent for the pharma category, what creative shifts or patterns did you notice across this year's presentations?
Sure. I think probably one of the biggest shifts I notice is how kind of like deeply the work connects emotionally. We've kind of moved beyond traditional pharma narratives where we talk about overly polished or clinical or just like over explanatory videos. It's not about that style. It's about being more human. It's about being more authentic. It's not just like clever creative. It's clever creative that's also extremely honest. So the work seems to more tap into the lived experiences of our patients and our healthcare providers more so than just feel like it's talking about them, right? So it's not performative, it's personal. I would say probably the top entries that I'm seeing that kind of like set themselves apart, they set themselves apart because of clarity and just clarity of communication. The truth, and this is probably for other juries as well, but almost everything that you see, the work that comes there, almost everything looks great, right? That's the level of CAN. It's about bringing and creating amazing work and then having that judge on the highest level. So just having great creative craft is probably no longer good enough. It has to be something different. So something that I'm seeing is probably the simplicity of the focus that I see through the work. That's the thing that's kind of cutting through. What I'm seeing is the best work didn't try to like do everything. It did just enough. It knew exactly what it wanted to say, and it told you exactly why it mattered. It kind of pulled you in, didn't make a spectacle, and it gave you its purpose. And so those are the pieces that I think are going to rise to the top because they're the ones that when I leave the judging table and I actually am just walking around, those are the ones that kind of stick in my mind, and those are the ones that I think rise to the top.
No, don't worry. I was saying that um, could maybe a little bit more complicated to create for a campaign because you have a lot of politics and rules that you have to follow. Obviously,
Sure.
You try to create something more creative. As you see that you saw a lot of incredible projects around pharma. Obviously, that kind of projects have a very high level, obviously. And it could be a little bit more complicated to know what could be the want, or obviously different kind of things. And this is my another question. How is the definition of innovation involving in pharma advertising, particularly as health tech and experience design become more integrated?
So I think that innovation is going to hit every single area of what we do. Like if you take experience design, for example, experience design is a central point of what we do in agencies because it's at the center of creativity, it's at the center of technology, usability, innovation. And all of those things are constantly changing because the world around innovation is changing itself. So for us, I think that we need to find ways to be able to not just use innovation to show what's new, but instead to use innovation to connect more closely with our end users, connect with our targets, connect with our patients and HCPs. It's not going to be about what we say or what we show. It's going to be about how someone interacts with our ideas. And those are going to be the moments that matter, right? I think that in healthcare, those moments are often like very full of emotion. They're full of vulnerability and urgency and uncertainty. You want to use innovation to be able to tap into those moments authentically so that you can then take them and show them in a way that does justice to how someone was feeling in those real moments. Because if we don't do that, then uh, now we're just showing people what we think that they want, but it's not reality. And so I think that it's really about taking those moments and turning them into real solutions, not just advertising anymore. That's what innovation, I think, is really starting to showcase. How can you bring people solutions? How can you do more than just talk to them? It has to be usability. It has to be accessibility. It has to touch on the emotional state, understand the cultural relevance. It needs to be an experience that ultimately helps them to do something that resonates with them as an end user. And we can't do that if we ignore the innovations that play a big role in their lives. So I think that's how innovation and experience design specifically are going to sit kind of in the center of those moments, and then everything will kind of branch off from there.
Don't do the same.
100%.
Totally, and it's really cool to understand your ushers and try to create something for them, because obviously the important thing that you have to know to create something really cool, and obviously it's special to have this kind of moments, or these different things between other projects, right?
And Ari, how can I create something for you if I don't know you, right? So I have to get to know you. I have to get to know what you care about. I need to understand why it matters to you. And then I can wrap an experience around that so that it feels authentic to you. If we don't do that, and I think about that through the lens of the entire space, if we're not doing that, we're just talking at people. We're not talking to them.
You have to know everything that happened with the people. You have to understand these different insights that you could have, and obviously you could create something real cool. And the data, it's an important thing too.
Oh yeah, so, sure.
And my next question is, what roles does empathy play in award-winning pharma works today, and how do you balance it with a specific accuracy and regularity contrast?
So empathy, I mean, I think empathy is it's a given, it's table stakes, right? Because that's where the magic happens. It's, again, that's that understanding of where you as an individual meet the work in a way that feels like it's telling your story. I think some of the best campaigns that I've seen kind of took a difficult or intimidating moment, and they flipped it, right? You can receive a bad or scary diagnosis or undergo a procedure or something like that. But taking that and turning that into an opportunity to kind of connect and comfort and empower people, that's the empathy that we're talking about. I think about it through just like the campaigns that you continue to see over the years. Those are the ones that continue to talk to people directly. They're beautiful, they're subtle, they're not flashy, but they're smart. And I think empathy generally comes through as smart creative, because it's that creative that uses the information that you know about a person, the data that surrounds them, not just to tell them more about what they know, but to instead craft an experience that's going to support them in a way that they need to be supported, that finds the gaps where they exist in their lives and starts to fill that in a very useful and critical time in their lives. So I think that you can only find those things when you're talking about being empathetic, when you actually decide to not just ask people about what they care about, but to walk in the shoes of those people, live in those experiences, find the human truth that's kind of centered around that. And if we can do that, I think, I don't care if that storytelling comes from, or showcases itself as beautiful film or a beautiful video or a dashboard or just design for online. you can be empathetic in all of those mediums, and you can start to talk to somebody authentically in those spaces as well. So that is, I think empathy is it's a golden rule, if you will. If it doesn't exist, then you're probably not talking to the right people.
Obviously, to sure show through a story, really to connect with people. There's something really, really important. Obviously, the storytelling. As you have to know how to create a good story in order to connect to people. That is I think I'm saying to you that it could be a bit more complicated in this pharma advertising. I don't know.
If you don't mind, I mean, I think about something like you take Magnetic Stories from last year, right? Magnetic Stories won because they literally, it was about empathy, right? Empathy was the driving force. It's a moment that had fear associated with it. It had to happen. And there are young people on the line who don't understand all of the complex scenarios around it. Taking a moment like that and then wrapping it in creative that takes that experience and turns it into something that brings joy, pleasure. Those are the insights that we gain from paying attention, from asking the right questions, and from really really listening to what people say when they actually speak. So if we can do that effectively, then we can find the empathy, and those empathetic moments lead us to better, more insightful, more nuanced creative that I think ends up being kind of just great for the industry.
To create something with a big impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Well, in your opinion, how is the creative bar being raised in the health and pharma space compared to other categories and cat lions?
So the pharma space is unique and it's interesting, right? One of the things that I love about it is a lot of the other categories show up in pharma, right? So film craft shows up in pharma. And so you don't just judge pharma as a category, you judge the subcategory of how's the craft, how's the innovation, how's the music and the sound design. We're going deeper into the different pieces of the work. And so it actually forces the work itself to aspire to something, if you will, outside of pharma, which is great because at the end of the day, I don't think that we're in a place where you require pharma to be just good for pharma. We can be just good. It's just good, great work that exists out there in the world. And I think that that's a place that we're starting to see the transformation because healthcare is influencing and impacting other consumer areas outside of pharma and outside of healthcare. And those areas are starting to influence us as well. So at this point, we're now starting to talk about areas where we can start to talk more generally to the general audience about health, about wellness, about being proactive versus just responding when somebody is sick or when something is negative. And that gives us a lot more creative latitude than we used to have when we had to almost just stick to the moment of disease, where now we can just talk about what it means to be a human who has a disease but still lives as part of the world, which I think is just a greater, more creatively exhilarant place to be. It allows you to be able to just explore the space in ways that you couldn't have before, honestly.
Yeah, you will explore a lot of things around this, and pharma category have a lot of layers that you have to know how to evaluate it, and you have different executions.
Sure.
These campaigns have a big impact for people all the work that you saw there, and it's really, really cool and something very interesting. Obviously, it's pharma, in my point of view, it's one of the most relevant. All the categories are relevant, but I think that has something special, right? And what advice would you give to agencies looking to bring emotional resonance and craft and highly regularized healthcare narratives?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a couple of different pieces of advice, right? one, actually be interested. Like, you can't find emotional resonance, you can't find empathy, you can't find any of those things if you don't listen. So you actually have to ask questions and you have to listen to the responses. And I think the truth is, find people who know how to ask the right questions. Surround yourself with individuals who have those as lived experiences, because what we experience ourselves are very, very different than how it showcases itself in media. So what we don't want to do is make the wrong step by assuming that what we see is real. We want to go out there and actually figure it out and explore it for ourselves. Do some research, get some users on the other end, ask those questions, and create something that's very, very useful. Then I would say the second part, because this is pharma, and pharma has a lot of, I'll call them regulations. I would say don't use those regulations as limitations, right? Because oftentimes we think about those things that we can't do or the things that we can't say, but instead, I would say treat those moments as creative prompts, right? You kind of come up against them and you use them to fuel your creativity, versus feel like they're blocking you. Because if you approach that moment with kind of curiosity and a discipline, you'll be able to find that those constraints can actually sharpen your thinking. And so if you think about the constraints to sharpen your thinking and the empathy to be able to drive the context for what you're doing, now you actually have work that starts to speak to someone in a way that hasn't been done before. We understand the space. We of course need to learn the science, but we also need to understand the patient's reality or the HCP's reality, because understanding those emotional dynamics, I think, and actually not even just the emotional dynamics, like the cultural barriers and the regulatory sensitivities around the world, those are the things that allow you to push for empathy and understanding in the work, right? Because you can confidently create that only if you understand it. Otherwise, you create something that feels a little bit more generic. You feel something that feels a lot more high order, because you don't really know how to speak to somebody down at the level that they need to be spoken to. So that's how I think that would be my advice to people entering those areas in the space, because once you do that, then you get to just be creative within it.
And that's for everything. You have to know it all around you, all these different environments that will make you create a really good project. With the agencies have to know these different points to create something really cool and something that will impact all the world. And obviously, in this category, that it's pharma, it's something that this key message that they have to have, right?
100%.
Perfect, Franklin. Well, this is my last question. From your vantage point at Area23, what does the future hold for creativity in the pharma sector, and where are the biggest opportunities for transformations?
All right, so probably a big question, because it requires a little extrapolation, right? Okay. Because the world is changing, I think creativity has to change around it. I think one of the big things that we're seeing is data and technology actually pushing where creativity starts to take shape and how it starts to exist in the world. I almost think about, and maybe I'll just talk about AI and the fact that this is a real big conversation point now in the work that we have. It's not just about using AI for like gimmicks or production or something like that. It's really about finding ways to unlock new insights and deliver kind of personalized care, personalized messaging, personalized experiences that are going to engage patients in a really, really great way. I liken it to, I think, we've always kind of lived in this world of just data swimming around us all at the same time. But now with AI, you can almost use AI as a chisel for that kind of data stonework to really find the data within it. And that ultimately leads us to insights that will lead to more creative territories that we didn't have access to before. There's so much information, there's so much insight out there that we as creative individuals want to take advantage of, but we can't take advantage of them if we don't understand them. So being able to use the technologies to find the data, to find the insights and drive the creativity, that's, I think, an untapped area that we're we will continue to explore. But we can only do that if you now have your data partners and your creative partners working together as one. Because if you can do that, now you create a pipeline of new insights that just haven't been tapped into before. So I would say that's a really, really good place to play. And then where we go from there is actually, I think, something that has been building over the course of the last few years, which is health is everywhere. Health is not limited to what we do in pharma. It's not limited to what we do at Area23. It's not what we limited to what we do in the industry in general. Health exists everywhere, and everybody now has an opinion on health. And so with that being the case, it's our, I think, responsibility to figure out where health connects with our brands and start to speak in those spaces in a way that makes sense. I don't care if it's social. I don't care if it's on owned asset. I don't care if it's on paid. I think that we just need to make sure that we are where individuals that matter to the brands, and for us to matter to them, we need to find the spaces where we both can coexist so that we can have real, authentic conversations. The moment that we can do that, I mean, now you're off to the races. Now you're actually providing value to people's lives in ways that I think are transformative. So that is the place that I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how the space evolves and what we can do within it.
And it will be a role that we want to create.
Oh, 100%.
Totally, and it's incredible the way that the future it's coming, and obviously the AI it's an important tool. We have to know that, and how to create this personalization for all the people to have this insight, this information, this data to create really impact projects.
And the truth is, I mean, at the end of the day, the transformation is here. We're already in it. You know, half of us are doing things differently, if not, you know, most of us are doing things differently. But the truth is not saying, okay, because we're doing things differently, we just keep doing more of the same. No, we use these moments to be able to do something in new ways that we couldn't have fathomed before because we didn't have the time to do it. Those are the ways that we enable what comes next, using what we have today while keeping our eyes open for what's coming tomorrow and into the future. So really looking forward to that, because I think that the future is semi-untold because of it, which is okay.
It's a really way of ending this conversation. Frankly, thank you so much for the time, for all your opinion, all this information, all this experience was really, really, really cool. And we appreciate it here in Roastbrief. And
my pleasure. Absolutely appreciate your time, and thank you so much. It's great to meet you, Ari.
It was incredible. Well, community, we have this great opportunity and a special guest. It was Franklin Williams, Executive Director of Experience Design at Area23, because now he's Pharma Jury President in Lios 2025. Thanks so much, Franklin. Goodbye, community.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.